I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Let's talk about this clip right here, all right? For those that don't know, this is Governor Walz. He is currently the governor of Minnesota, and he is running alongside Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is currently our vice president. She is running to be president of the United States, and if she wins, this will be your vice president. Now, I know for a fact, a lot of people would agree with that statement. A lot of people seem to think that, yes, free speech does not cover hate speech. Again, I understand where that logic comes from. As someone who used to be a Democrat, I used to have a lot of the same beliefs as you. So I understand there is an emotional aspect to that. You want to feel like you're doing something. You want to feel like you are protecting people. I get it. I understand. It is not well reasoned, and here's why. What do you mean by hate speech? Like, specifically, it implies by saying this statement that there is a standard of hate speech. So what is it? Can you show me a list where that would, like, what? Who gets to establish what hate speech is? Depending on who you ask, you're going to get a different answer, which means that hate speech is subjective. It changes from person to person, and that should alarm you. See, the beauty of the First Amendment is it gives us the power to choose. I have the power to choose if I choose to be offended by something that someone said. Oh, you said something racist to me? You said the N-word? Oh, okay, well, that's nice. Even if someone threatened me, thank goodness for the Second Amendment, but I would prefer if that person said whatever they wanted to me versus having a society where people didn't have the ability to say anything depending on what the government thinks is acceptable. I would even go as far as to say that there is something beneficial about being exposed to so-called hate speech because it grows your mental resilience. Now imagine for a second if every single person in the United States had the mental fortitude to not feel oppressed by hateful rhetoric. The government would lose its power. They couldn't depend on you to support them with your vote if you chose to ignore it or turn the other cheek. Well, there's a grand idea. But they need you, so they want you to feel as though you are literally under attack by hearing so-called hate speech. So they need to continue that narrative, so you'll vote for them. Now, let's talk about the other thing that he mentioned about misinformation. This is another funny word. I could be wrong, but didn't we go through a pandemic? COVID came out and everyone started questioning the origins of it and questioning the legitimacy of the vaccine. And wasn't the media labeling these people as right-wing conservative conspiracy theorists who are spreading misinformation? And then come to find out it actually was true that wearing a mask didn't slow the spread and the vaccine actually didn't prevent you from getting the virus. And oh, yes, that's right. The virus actually did originate from a lab, but this was all misinformation, right? It's all xenophobic misinformation by right-wingers. Yes. So when you say misinformation, I have to wonder, are you alluding to the truth? Is that what you mean by misinformation? You think that the truth should be suppressed? So again, who does this benefit? It benefits the government, because at minimum, if you were to look at this at a microscopic level, it's kind of insulting that the government is implying that you're too stupid to ask the right questions. I mean, I do agree. We do have a lot of dumb people in this world. I get it. But again, I think in order for you to learn how to think critically, you have to have that ability to do so in the first place. And you can't properly think critically and reason through your thoughts if the government is just feeding you information and telling you what you have to believe. That's not learning. You're not learning anything. You're just repeating the narrative and then calling people conspiracy theorists because they are presenting to you an alternative viewpoint that you can't fathom. And so now it's just misinformation. No, it's not misinformation. By the way, guys, because I know for a fact someone is going to come in the comment section and tell me, oh, there's a full clip, you're taking it out of context. All right, so I watched the entire segment, and He was referring to the ballot boxes. So his argument is that there's no guarantee to free speech in the context of lying about the voting integrity. And my argument still stands, okay? Free speech also covers lying. All right. Free speech is free speech. Now, of course, I don't recommend lying. All right. It's not good. It's no bueno. Lying is a sin. But to imply that lying isn't covered under the First Amendment when we all know that the government doesn't have the best track record for telling the truth. Read in between the lines here. He is saying the quiet part out loud. So that's all I wanted to say. Let's get on with the video. So now you have to ask yourself, okay, why is this guy saying this about the First Amendment, misinformation and free speech? Why? What's the point of doing that? There is something else going on in the background that I'm sure a lot of my viewers have already caught on to. I mean, it's pretty obvious. If you watch the news, you've sort of seen this pattern. But there is an effort to push for more gun policy, or they say common sense gun policy. Okay. And I understand this position because you want to feel like you're doing something to help. You don't like seeing people get hurt. And if you have these school shootings or these random drive-bys, gang violence and stuff like that, you want to feel like you're actually doing something. You're actually making a change. I get the logic here. But if you think about it, it's very illogical to support something like this. And here's why. I want you to consider this, all right? When someone goes to commit a mass shooting, let's say a school shooting, are they following proper gun safety? The answer is no. If someone commits a school shooting, are they following the law? The answer is no. So really, there would be no point to these laws, you could argue. So who does it actually benefit? We know who it's targeting, the average person that just wants to protect their family from criminals, to which, by the way, there are many, especially with this wide open border we have. But who gets the benefit from this? Let's think about this for a second. If the government is saying that only certain people can own guns, or more specifically, they're honest. Let me just say this, because a lot of people are going to come in the comments and say they're not trying to take away your guns. Of course, they're not going to do it right away. Like, they're not going to barge into your house and be like, give me your guns. No. They're doing it incrementally because they don't want you to notice. So now, if citizens are disarmed, and the government theoretically wanted to do something bad to its citizens, actually oppress its citizens, since people love throwing this word around, no one would know. No one would know. Who would know? Under this logic of banning misinformation and not being protected under the First Amendment, no one would know if the government turned tyrannical and started attacking its own citizens. Based on COVID alone, we know that misinformation just means the truth. In fact, it would be hateful for you to even imply that a government is capable of doing such thing. Yeah, it's almost like our founding fathers understood something about human nature. I wonder if maybe, they were trying to warn us about something by having the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, because it's almost like the Second Amendment helps keep the First Amendment. But if we don't have the Second Amendment and we don't have the First Amendment, then it's possible that we would lose all of the other amendments. We can't speak, we can't defend ourselves. What makes you think you're gonna keep your so-called rights? Oh yeah, you think your rights come from the government? Well, my goodness, you better hope the government doesn't take them away.